In 1972, Apollo 17, the last Apollo mission, launched from the Kennedy Space Center on a mission to the moon. Those lucky enough to attend the event might have been given one of these information folders. Let's see what's inside. Okay, so let's have a look inside this folder, but first, let's have a look at the outside. So we've got a beautiful photo of the Saturn V launch vehicle down there in all its glory, and on the back, we have this nice chronology of US manned spaceflight missions, all the way from the first one with Alan Shepard, and the Mercury missions, the Gemini, and the Apollos, including Apollo 17, right down here at the bottom. So, we also have on the right-hand side all the highlights, all the milestones and various interesting things each of these missions did. Very, very cool. So, let's crack it open. So, first things first, let's have a look at the fun stuff. So, we have this beautiful badge. This is the Apollo 17 emblem or mission patch on a beautiful badge for everyone to wear as a kind of cool fashion statement and really impress your friends. We also have some stickers here of the beautiful Saturn V launch vehicle at the Kennedy Space Center. And you'll notice, hang on a sec, the moon's there. This is at night. Well, Apollo 17 was, of course, a night launch. It was the only night launch of the Apollo missions. And we'll get onto that in a bit more detail later on. So some cool stickers to stick on your, well, not laptop, because it's 1972, I guess on your computer, which at that time would have been the size of your house, I guess. Okay, moving on, we have our official card that shows that we have toured the Florida, John F. Kennedy Space Center in Florida, which means that when our friends say you weren't there, we can whip out this and say, actually friend, I was. Please apologize to me. Okay, so some tourist information guides here. First of all, from the glorious state of Florida, the Everglades National Park. We immediately discard this because we're here to see this launch, not at any alligators. So, the guide for visitors. This is a nice little booklet that kind of shows what a visitor could have expected in 1972 at the John F. Kennedy Space Center. I imagine it's been updated since then. I've never been, but it does have this beautiful concept art of a potential space shuttle, which was close but no cigar to the final design. And this is, I assume, Skylab. So pretty cool concept art there. What could have been, what never happened. Of course, these two never met. More on that later. Of course, we have a nice on the back, a nice map of the entire complex. Beautiful. We also have, well, I think this is for the badge. Very nice. We should probably rip this off for the air zoo. Very cool. Okay, moving on to the actual content. Now, this is a trio of space benefits related content. They all follow the same kind of theme of space benefits. We're spending all this money to go into space. What's in it for me? Well, these three items hope to clarify that and make you say, actually, we should be spending more money on space. So the first one here, space benefits today and tomorrow, looks at the various benefits that space has had and will have on future people. Now, this mainly focuses on satellites and the benefits satellites would have to the average person. It focuses mainly on communications, weather, navigation, agriculture, astronomy, earth resources, and oceanography. On the back, there's of course a little bonus page as well, detailing all the bonuses, research and spin-offs involved with the NASA programs. My favorite being they boast of a new type of pipe that was built. So that's great, I guess. Okay, so that's cool. Moving on, if you're a little bit older and think, hang on a sec, I'm not going to be around to take advantage of all these satellites in the sky, I'm going to be dead soon. Well, don't worry, NASA had you covered. Space benefits for, well, space benefits and older citizens, and this really nice kind of Starman here. Opening up this one, and this one focuses mainly on the benefits of space research and the developments from space, and what knock-on effects they have on the older generation. So they talk about technology giving more comfort to people. For example, these sight switch spectacles, which enable patients to remotely operate equipment. I'm not really too sure if those kicked off Google Glass. Anybody? Still trying to figure that out. Across here, there's a big section on fire worries and how NASA has developed ways to stop fires from spreading quickly, which of course is a major concern for those with mobility issues and older folk who might not be able to get out of there in a pinch, if, for example, there's an emergency. So some really interesting stuff there. Some additional things about other technologies that will benefit the older citizens in our society. And to cap things off in this trilogy, we have this beautiful booklet called For the Benefit of All Mankind. And this really goes into detail about the different research and benefits and spin-offs involved with NASA and their programs. First and foremost, it cuts to the chase and talks about the money involved and the spending and why the spending is actually completely justified. Don't worry about it. And we go into more details about the various medical devices that have been spun off from all the different manned and unmanned space missions. We go into the other technologies involved and how it's helping people, not just in the United States, but from across the world. This is a really cool booklet, and it's on some really nice paper too. Good stuff. So you might be wondering, why did NASA include 3 entire pieces of content on space benefits? And I think if we think to the time in which this was produced, Apollo 17, 1972, we might start to understand. Of course, Apollo 17 was the end of the Apollo era, and a lot of people were wondering, what did we actually benefit? Apart from a massive flex on the Soviet Union, going to the moon, picking out some space rocks and giving some astronauts the time of their life, what have we actually achieved? I think these booklets were used to actually show to the general public that exploration of space, visiting the moon, had knock-on effects that helped everybody, and not just everybody in the United States, but everybody across the world. So I think these are really cool items. Very, very cool items. Okay, let's move on to this section here, and we have another trilogy. And this trilogy focuses on future and current space missions at the time. Remember, it's 1972. So let's start with this one, ERTS. Now you might not recognize the name. Earth Resources Technology Satellite. You still might not recognize the name. In 1975, this satellite was named as Landsat-1 and was the first to carry a multispectral scanner and was launched before Apollo 17 in July 1972. Now this booklet kind of goes into what Landsat, or ERTS at the time, the missions involved with it, what it was hoping to achieve, and the various things it was essentially going to do. Now, Landsat went on to kind of provide a lot of information about a lot of things. It provided information on agriculture and forestry services, geology and mineral resources, hydrology and water resources, geography, cartography, environmental pollution, oceanography, yeah, lots of stuff. Very, very cool satellite indeed. And this pamphlet is really, really nice. Less illustrations than this one, which gets kind of deduct points, but a lot of text, which is good to see. Moving on to Skylab. Now Skylab, if you don't know what Skylab is, Skylab was the first United States space station, and it was launched in 1973 and occupied between May 1973 and February 1974. Now this booklet has some really nice diagrams of Skylab and talks more about the missions and the hopes and dreams of that mission. On the back we have a nice example of how Skylab was going to be launched and how it was going to be visited. Now, unfortunately, Skylab have met an early end. It was launched in 1973 and was expected to stay in orbit for a while, but unfortunately was deorbited earlier than expected in 1979. There were plans to boost it and upgrade using the space shuttle. Unfortunately, the space shuttle faced some delays, and Skylab kind of plummeted and broke up over Australia. Whoopsie-daisy. Space shuttle. Now, the space shuttle program was in its infancy. This is 1972, and we can see already the size of the text when compared to stuff that was already in the sky is huge. Very much big font, big vague references to things. They hadn't quite worked out all the details, but it's another fantastic little pamphlet and booklet about what a shuttle could be, the missions the shuttle would do, and the mission profile. Here's a nice little diagram that ended up being pretty correct about how it would be launched and enter again from orbit. Very, very cool. And rounding off these kind of little pamphlets is this kind of generic one about NASA. It's more of the same, really, talking about each of the missions in a little bit of detail, talking about various things from the space shuttle, the Skylab, and all the various NASA facilities around the country too. I like this. They should use this logo. Very cool. Okay, before we get into this mission profile, let me show you this. This is really cool. So I was talking about Apollo 17 being a night launch earlier, and this is what I want to talk about. This, issued by the Kennedy Space Center, is the guide for photographers for taking good photos during the launch. Of course, it's a night launch. Night photography is a little bit difficult, especially when we're talking about photographing something at night, like a spaceship that is going to get very bright very quickly. So this little guide here talks about the shutter speeds and the f-stop numbers needed to make a good photograph of the Saturn V launch vehicle. It is really cool and really fascinating. I'd really like to know if they still make stuff like these, or if they've just given up, or if cameras don't need this anymore, or photographers don't need this anymore. But it's really interesting. It even goes into detail about the expected light kind of volume in during each part of the launch. Very, very, very cool. I love this. Okay, let's look at this. This is the Apollo 17 mission profile, and this is $1, so quite expensive, I guess. I don't know how much that is in 1972. You could probably buy a house with that. Okay, probably not. So, personal guide to the historic event, the last mission of the Apollo flights. So when we open this up, we're greeted by the beautiful smiles of our three astronauts here, and a nice statement from then President Richard M. Nixon, M for Milhouse. He says, "We want to have a balanced program, but most important, we are going forward. America, the United States, is first in space. We're proud to be first in space." Not entirely sure if that bit's true, but I'm sure Yuri Gagarin would like to word with Mr. Nixon, but we'll ignore that and we'll go through this booklet. We can see it's got some beautiful pictures about the Apollo program and the Saturn V launch vehicle, and talks more in depth about the process of getting to the moon and breaks down the steps. It's really cool and fascinating, and some of these illustrations are really great at just understanding all the maneuvers needed to get into that lunar orbit, to land on the moon, to get back up into, get back to Earth really. Some fantastic photographs. And there's also these little areas where you can write down the time and the date and the location of all these historic moments. So pretty cool stuff. It even has one of my favorite things, this page here. This is for all the geeks and freaks out there. Weights, measures, and dimensions. Yep, this is just a page where it tells you the height of various things, the weight of various things. Just, it's real geeky stuff. and I'm sure some of you watching this would love it. I might scan this and put this somewhere. We also have some fantastic diagrams of the launch vehicle and the lunar module and command module and service module too. Really nice stuff. And it ends with a nice little JFK mention here from JFK's original speech in 1961. Very, very cool. But for example, you're unlucky. If you're unlucky and you don't get to go to Florida to watch this thing take off for real, well, you were stuck at home. Maybe you could grab something else because a lot of people were printing things for the space launch. And I've got some of the items here. This one here, printed by the Manned Spacecraft Center in Houston, Texas, is a pre-flight summary. And it's very similar to the other things we've seen. But this one focuses mostly on the actual moon and the areas of the moon that we were going to investigate and explore during the Apollo 17 mission. Very nice. We also have this card that was produced by General Electric, and it actually talks about the timings involved with the launch. On the back it has all the lunar surface activities that were scheduled at the time. And if we open it up, it has the mission events, and roughly it kind of breaks down exactly what's going to be happening when. Very, very cool indeed. And this one is for all those stamp collectors out there. From our collection, we have some first covers here. If you don't know what a first cover is, these things are collectibles issued they were issued quite a lot during the space race and the space programs, especially Apollo. So here's a small collection of the various first covers you got, showing the different types, and some of the different stamps as well issued at the time of Apollo 17. Very, very cool. Now to finish things off and to round things out, it's 1972, baby, of course, which means there is this. The commemorative book of matches. Of course, you can't have an event without a commemorative book of matches. And look how beautiful this is. It's beautifully gold. It's got the nice the logo on the front, and on the back we got a nice moon with Apollo on it. Beautiful stuff. It's been almost 50 years since Apollo 17 launched. With NASA looking to visit the moon again in the near future, it makes me wonder. I wonder what they'll give out during those launches.